you come to a hotel, we have no idea where to go. So, you're asking for a local restaurant, and of course the hotel promote their own. Go downstairs and get breakfast on site, and we'll give you a free coffee. I think 99 or 95% of the time, I think that's going to turn into a transaction. We're looking for some bit of information. We get a free coffee. Absolutely. I'm going to that, the on-site restaurant. So a little discounts, a little free, and making it a little bit more, give it a bit more of a personality, not like I think like a robotic marketing pitch, I think you can really bring it to life outside of just that robotic response.
Thanks for joining us in our Part 2 discussion with Andreas Cooper of Smart Voice Systems on the Sound in Marketing podcast. In this episode, we discuss focusing on subtle and sincere voice marketing instead of a sell, creating community within voice marketing, creating a personality for our voice marketing, customized voicing for brands. It's not just about Alexa and Siri's voices anymore. The limitations to massive creativity with hospitality voice systems, but the possibility for it with a little more time and vision, and future thoughts on voice in hospitality as integrations and data progresses. My name is Jeanna Isham, and this is the Sound in Marketing podcast. And going back to, you were talking about the local businesses being able to advertise, and that brings in revenue for the hotels and the service companies that are utilizing your hardware. I think that that's really wise too, because, with all of the research that I've been doing and what I've been hearing and everything, nobody wants to be sold at anymore. Like, they want it to be passive. They want it to be entertaining. They don't want to, they know when they're being sold to. And I think people are just tired of that. And I think of, like I live in the LA area, and when I go into Hollywood, it's too much. There's just signs everywhere, and it's just like sparkly and like it's overwhelming. And you can't see, you could be looking right at something and miss it because there's just too much stimulation going on. So I think that going into the sound marketing realm just makes sense because we've oversaturated the visual. I mean, the visual marketing will always be there, and there's definitely a use for it and everything like that. But I feel like it's been oversaturated, and people are just tired and a little bit worn out from like just looking at things. So kind of speaking quietly in someone's ear in a nice way, in a unique but like a sincere way. I think that's the way that all marketing should go.
Yeah, I'll kind of emphasize that it has to be subtle. If they're asking, for a local restaurant or whatnot, and you have to kind of give them something, a 10%, or tell them Alexa sent you. For example, what one that I've showed off on some of my LinkedIn posts is, when just asking for where can I get a cocktail, and it pushes them to the hotel bar, and it recommends for example, the Bloody Mary, and it says, hey, tell them Alexa sent you, for 10% off. So the goal there is, very subtle. Sure that, it tells them that there is a hotel bar. It recommends the Bloody Mary, and that may be, if not the most popular cocktail that they have there. It gives them a 10% discount. And so, the belief there is, right now, they're unsure where else they can get a drink. They've just been given a 10% discount. They've been recommended a certain drink. If they are serious about finding something, I feel pretty confident that marketing ploy is going to turn into a transaction. And so we think it is very powerful. Again, the other one is the restaurant. You come to a hotel, and we all go there. We travel. And when we go to a different city, we have really no clue. We have no idea where to go. So again, you're asking for a local restaurant. And of course the hotel promote their own, and you've just been given, say, a free wine, or even maybe for breakfast you get a free coffee. Go downstairs and get breakfast on site, and we'll give you a free coffee. I think 99 or 95% of the time, I think that's going to turn into a transaction because we just, we're looking for some bit of information. We get a free coffee. Absolutely. I'm going to that, the on-site restaurant, other than
I'm
trying
all about free. I'm all about free.
Yeah. Totally. So a little discounts, a little free, and making it a little bit more, making it quite personal, adding in little quirky responses, like the fact that, Alexa recommends the Bloody Mary, or just little, custom, responses that the Alexa, give it a bit more of a personality, not like I'm trying to think, like a robotic marketing pitch, you do, and that's really important throughout the whole process for the hotel and different industries, is you've got to add, and it's got to build on its own personality, and you can customize that in to the responses, little quirky responses or pauses here and there, or little things that, I think you can really bring it to life, outside of just that robotic response.
Yeah. And speaking of the robotic response and everything like that, right now we have, Alexa and Siri and like all of those characters or those voices and everything like that. I've actually been hearing a lot more about people coming up with like customized voices for their brand, because if you think about it, Alexa and Siri are actually the first marketing that you get once the voice starts. So before even your brand, you're hearing Google or you're hearing Amazon. And so they're actually selling themselves first before you get to sell yourself. So I'm just wondering, has there been anything that you've been hearing about where people are coming up with kind of like the sonic branding thing, but like this is more like an actual voice character? For instance, like Amazon Alexa can sound like Nick Fury with Sam Jackson's voice, like that sort of thing.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and they have the censored and the non-censored version. That like cracks me up.
So powerful, and you're absolutely right. For example, what we've done, on a small scale, or sorry, what Valara have done in the UK on a small scale, is they've got quite a few celebrities from different sporting teams to deliver those responses. Instead of Alexa, robotically delivering the answer, they have the ability to record a real person. For example, they use the English cricket team captain. And so, familiar to the UK, for example, a lot of people will predominantly know that voice, and they do it for a lot of different features, and they get key sporting figures from, obviously the UK to customize and record those responses. And you could find hotel chains aligning themselves with a celebrity, and like you said, Samuel L. Jackson is a great example of some voices are a lot more well known than others, and if you could get a David Attenborough, to align yourself with a hotel, and sure, there's a little bit of work on the front end, but I would there's certain voices I would love to hear them delivering me that key, or that what you'd call mundane information, but it's coming from David Attenborough. I think there's a lot of power there, to add that customization again for brands, and they already do it. They align themselves visually with actors or people of significance, and I think the voice side of things is just as powerful, and so I think there's real opportunity there for hotels to set themselves apart, for brands for products, for locations to set themselves apart with custom voices for celebrities and whatnot.
What is or let me rephrase that. So this is a brand new thing. Hotels are trying this out. You've only been around for, did you say 3 years?
4 years.
4 years. Okay, so that's fairly new. Just the spectrum of like voice systems and things like that.
Definitely.
But so these hotels are taking a chance. They're trying something new. You're presenting them with the education and explaining to them what they can do and like options and things like that. From that experience, what has been the most creative experiment that a hotel or hospitality service has come up with from what you've taught them? So like, have they expanded upon what you've taught them and come up with something very interesting?
From a marketing creatives perspective, no, we haven't had anyone come up with something really unique or special. It's kind of, they may have an idea regarding similar to I think it's it's called the chain is the Village in the UK, where they've used those custom recordings from local sporting celebrities. That would be I think a brilliant marketing ploy. But we haven't seen, that would be as far as it has gone, and there is only so much you can do, but it would come around, those creative ways of marketing, like we discussed, you have obviously the some of the basic stuff like room control and TV control and all those different elements, but yeah, from a hotel perspective, I don't think there's huge opportunity when you kind of get out into, other industries or maybe more public based locations for this voice technology. I think there's a lot more you could do, based on seasons, obviously with Halloween, that is a great example for a hotel to, hey, this is a huge season for us. We're going to do something a little, I don't know, spooky or something, for guests that are staying today. And we're going to, do a few custom recordings for some of our key questions. And it's going to be a little different. Of course, Christmas, all those seasonal, that's where we would see huge opportunities for hotels to say, hey, we're going to do something a bit special. We're going to get, Father Christmas in, over this week and get someone with that kind of accent to deliver the responses. And I think that's as kind of, it is voice. There's, there's a cap in terms of that creativity. But I think if you do have a bit of vision and you have that nous for marketing, then I think you can come up with some pretty impressive things.
Well, and it's still like I said, it's very new. So this is something that's kind of spinning around in people's brains. I know it's spinning in mine. So, but yeah, so I think that there's probably a lot that could be done to even make one hotel more friendly than another, or something like that. Like, you're talking about Christmas and Halloween, and everything. It could be something like the special for Christmas is that all of the hotel staff put together their favorite playlist of all of the Christmas music that they love, and so you can play this playlist or something like that. Yeah, but I'm fascinated by what people are coming up with, because people are really creative. When you give them something brand new like this, a lot of people just really roll with it. So it's cool to see what's developing and what will develop. And speaking of that, where do you see voice and hospitality in a year, 5 years, 10 years? Where do you see this going?
Oh, okay. A year to 5 years. At the end of the day, from our calculations, I think you're looking at there's about 10 million beds throughout the world, hotel beds, and I don't think that doesn't take into account Airbnbs. So within that, our goal is to get 10% of those. So for us, we think we can eventually get to 1 million beds where there's 1 million devices throughout the world with Volara software on them. So, and from there, we're still ultimately in the startup phase, and there's been some tremendous success. And I was just speaking to David last week, and he got a contract for 500 rooms. And there are some hotels in, for example, like the Las Vegas with 2,000 rooms in them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some big hotels in Australia and New Zealand, and that you are looking at more the 150 to 200 room hotels. But yeah, we at the end of the day, there's a lot of learning to be done. There's a lot of integrations to be done with already proprietary software in the hotel industry, and the more we can integrate with those, for example, when like I mentioned before, when a tower is requested, it's going to the property management system, or being able to gather all that information that they have on a guest, and put that into a device. Obviously, Amazon were quite limited actually by Amazon and Google, and their approach into this industry and to the world with their devices. Certain parts of the world, they just don't have, they can't even download the Amazon or the Google apps, and the Amazon just aren't there, and then you go to different languages, and Amazon's ability to interpret. Google just brought out a translator, which we're really excited about, that's going to be an industry specific one. So we're a little bit limited by them at the moment, and some of the things that they're allowing us to do, for example, calling and parts of the world, but we're striving ahead, and we're working with what we have in the specific countries. And again, it's very exciting because we can clearly see the vision. It for us, it's so obvious. Hotels just kind of need to catch up to us. Amazon and Google and the others that we think need to catch up to us, and not slow us down. And we have no doubt. You can see it. We're seeing it with home automation adoption, devices into homes. The fastest growing, I saw on LinkedIn, the fastest growing consumer technology in period, faster than the iPhone, all of that.
The iPhone, yeah.
That's right. So these are devices are going into homes, and so people are going to start using them. They're going to expect them everywhere they go, from in their car, which is seen, as a rapid adoption in wearables, which is seen, from our AirPods to our in-ears to our obviously phones. So this voice stuff isn't going away. It's just improving. It's growing. And so again, if you can be on that wave, if you can be a part of it, and you can have a bit of vision, you can capitalize, and we're very excited.
Yeah, I am too. It's just been such an interesting ride for me just to experience and observe what's happening. People are just so freaking creative.
Yeah, totally.
It's unbelievable. One last question. So you're in New Zealand, I'm in the US.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see a part of the world adopting this faster than another? Because I only have one perspective. You've been doing a lot of traveling.
Sure. Yeah. That's a great one. For example, I look across the ditch to Australia, and their adoption rate for I think it's specifically Google Home is the predominant speaker over there. A huge penetration into homes. For example, here in New Zealand, and it's pretty much always been this way. We're always a good year and a half behind Australia, and then Australia is often one or 2 years behind the US. So yeah, we see Australia as a huge market. The US obviously is leading the way, and you can already see that with the amount of hotels that are coming to us now. We're not having to market as much because they're seeing, hey, the adoption rate for these speakers is so big that we have to get them now. Where, for example, in New Zealand, obviously they're growing, but it's nowhere near as fast, and so hotels probably don't have the urgency. And then I look to Australia and I see what's happening there with those devices and that penetration. I'm like, okay, these hotels, and in essence, Australia, compared to New Zealand, has always been a little bit ahead of us. It is market size as well, so you have to appreciate, the US is a huge market, New Zealand is a tiny market, so a lot of companies or products don't find their way here just because there isn't really the opportunity or the population. So, it's with those different things. But now with, 3-hour flights and the ability and technologies like Zoom and FaceTime, you can pretty much run a business from anywhere in the world, so we don't feel like we're limited, even though we're a long way. And a lot of people, I was in the US and they didn't even know what New Zealand or where New Zealand is, so it's hilarious, So, but I don't take that, encourages me because, I feel confident I can, reach out to this part of the world. Australasia is going to be our baby, and we're excited to work with Lara moving forward because they're really leading the way in the US, and we're just kind of making sure, we can do the same in this part of the world.
Very cool. If anybody wanted to reach out to you to ask you some more questions about smart voice systems, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Andreas Cooper, or our website is smartvoicesystems.nz or .co. So Smart Voice Systems with an S on the end. Jump on LinkedIn, flick me an email. I think my mobile number's on the website as well. So more than happy to talk and see how we can make it work for your business or your hotel or any industry, really. We're excited for a lot of different industries.
Yes, it definitely does. It definitely does. Thanks so much for joining me on the Sound and Marketing podcast.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
As Andreas just said, you can find him on LinkedIn. For more information on his company, go to smartvoicesystems.nz. The links will also be provided in the show notes. The mission of the Sound and Marketing podcast is to pique your interest or possibly even blow your mind. Let's think outside the box at what is hovering all around us. Sound. It's powerful, it's engaging, it's us. If you enjoyed today's episode, please follow, subscribe, leave a review, and share. You can follow and subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and Stitcher. And don't forget to enter promo code Sound and Marketing for your 1-month free trial of Stitcher Premium. This podcast was produced by Dreamr Productions and hosted, written, and edited by me, Jeanna Isham. For inquiries on producing and developing your own podcast, or for inquiries on sonic branding and sound branding consultation availabilities, you can find me at dreamrproductions.com. That's DREAMR Productions.com. You can also email me at Jeanna, JEANNA, @dreamrproductions.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn or follow me on Facebook. As always, all links will be provided in the show notes below. Let's make this world of sound more intriguing, more unique, and more on brand.